The stars stretched endlessly across the black sky, glittering like scattered diamonds. Among them, the human starship Horizon glided silently toward the distant planet of Virelia, a world that humans had only ever seen through telescopes and satellite scans. Dr. Adrian Hale stood by the viewport, his eyes tracing the blue and green swirls of the planet below. He had dreamed of this moment his entire life. First contact with an intelligent alien species. Yet, despite the excitement, a quiet tension ran through him. The humans aboard the ship were nervous, and that nervousness was contagious. Virelia was known for its advanced civilization, but what made the humans cautious was the rigid hierarchy of the ruling Erathans. Every citizen of the planet obeyed the Queen, the supreme ruler. Without question, those who challenged her faced exile, and sometimes worse. Humanity had come seeking friendship, but Adrian knew that one mistake could destroy all chances for peaceful contact. As the Horizon descended through the planet's atmosphere, Adrian's mind raced with thoughts about protocol, diplomacy, and the unknown intelligence they were about to meet. He was a xenobiologist, trained to study life forms and their ecosystems, but nothing in his education could prepare him for standing before an alien monarch. The ship's engines hummed, a steady vibration that seemed almost comforting. He turned away from the viewport as the landing platform came into view. Sleek towers of crystal-like structures rose from the planet's surface, shimmering in the sunlight. The Erathans' capital was both beautiful and intimidating. When the humans disembarked, they were greeted by a group of tall, elegant aliens. Their skin shimmered faintly in shades of silver and blue, and their eyes reflected a brilliance that humans found unnerving. One of the aliens stepped forward, bowing slightly. "Welcome, humans," the alien said in a voice that was smooth, precise, and oddly melodic. "I am Sereth, emissary to the Queen. She will see you soon." Adrian tried to hide his unease, nodding respectfully. He followed the delegation across the platform, feeling every eye upon him. The aliens moved with a fluid grace, their gestures deliberate and controlled. It was clear that discipline and order were at the core of their society. Soon, they arrived at the royal hall. It was enormous, with ceilings that seemed to vanish into light. At the far end, elevated on a platform, sat the Erethan Queen. She was taller than any human, her presence commanding the attention of the entire room without a word. Her silver-blue skin gleamed, and her eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned the humans as if weighing every thought and intention. Her hands rested lightly on the arms of her throne, fingers long and elegant, and her posture radiated authority. Adrian felt his throat dry. The Queen's gaze was penetrating, but it was not hostile, it was assessing. Every word he spoke, every movement he made, would be analyzed for hidden meaning. He reminded himself to remain calm and speak clearly. The Queen's advisors whispered among themselves before one stepped forward. "We welcome your delegation, humans. But before trust can be extended, we must understand your intentions. What brings your kind to Virelia?" Quote, Adrian straightened. "We come in peace," he said. "We seek knowledge and friendship. We wish to learn from your civilization and share our own understanding of the universe." The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly. "Words are easily spoken. Actions reveal truth. You will be observed. Your behavior here will determine whether you remain under our protection or under our scrutiny." Adrian nodded, feeling the weight of her authority. "We understand, Your Majesty." As the humans were led to their quarters, Adrian noticed the quiet attentiveness of the Erathans surrounding them. Everything here was calculated, every gesture, every glance. It was both fascinating and intimidating. The first night on Virelia passed with little sleep for Adrian. He could not stop thinking about the Queen, her piercing gaze, and the challenge of earning the trust of a species so different from humans. Despite the formalities, he felt a subtle awareness of another presence, one less rigid, more curious. That presence belonged to Princess Lyra, the Queen's daughter. Adrian had glimpsed her briefly during the meeting. Unlike her mother, she moved with a warmth that humans could relate to. Her eyes, though equally bright, reflected curiosity and something that resembled understanding. Over the next few days, Adrian was introduced to the routines of the Arithans. He learned their ways of communication, which included subtle changes in color along the skin and precise body language. Their technology fascinated him. Energy grids that adapted to the environment, vehicles that floated silently above the ground, and devices that seemed to respond to thought as much as touch. Despite their differences, Adrian found ways to connect. He shared stories of human exploration and innovation, showing the aliens how humans had adapted to diverse environments, from icy tundras to vast deserts. He explained the principles of human science and medicine, emphasizing creativity and improvisation as tools humans often relied upon. The Arithans listened carefully, some with visible skepticism, others with mild interest. Princess Lyra, in particular, spent hours with him in private study rooms. She asked questions about human behavior, ethics, and decision-making. She wanted to understand how humans thought, and she found Adrian's answers both refreshing and challenging. He spoke honestly about fear, hope, courage, and failure concepts that were foreign yet fascinating to her species. Their conversations became the highlight of Adrian's days. Lyra was brave in her curiosity, asking questions that others would have considered inappropriate. She challenged him, and he responded with honesty and respect. Slowly, a quiet trust grew between them, though neither spoke of it openly. But not all were pleased with Adrian's presence. Some Arithan advisors whispered among themselves, questioning why a human should be allowed access to their inner circles. They saw humans as fragile and unpredictable. And in a society where control was paramount, unpredictability was dangerous. Adrian was aware of their suspicion but chose to remain composed. He knew that actions spoke louder than words, and he intended to prove humanity's worth through deeds rather than debate. One afternoon, while examining a natural observation chamber filled with exotic flora and fauna, Adrian noticed something alarming. A delicate plant, vital to the Arithan's ecosystem study, was reacting violently to a subtle imbalance in the chamber's energy system. If left unchecked, the plant could release toxic spores that might endanger the observers. Thinking quickly, Adrian adjusted the energy flow using his portable devices and his understanding of the plant's biology. Within moments, the danger passed, and the Arithans looked at him with surprise and cautious admiration. Even the queen, who had been observing from afar, gave a small, almost imperceptible nod of acknowledgement. Princess Lyra's smile was more obvious. She stepped forward, her voice carrying a warmth that filled the chamber. "You see the world differently," she said quietly to Adrian. "You notice what we overlook. That is remarkable." Adrian felt a mixture of relief and pride. It was a small victory, but in a society like Virelia's, small victories mattered. They built trust. They built understanding, and perhaps, they built the first threads of a bond between humans and Arithans. As the day ended, Adrian returned to his quarters, reflecting on the challenges ahead. He knew that his stay on Virelia would be fraught with scrutiny, but he also knew that humans had something unique to offer: creativity, courage, and the ability to adapt, qualities that, in the right circumstances, could win allies, even among the most rigid of societies. And in the quiet moments before sleep, Adrian felt a sense of hope. Princess Lyra's presence, her curiosity, and her boldness suggested that not all Arithans would see him as a threat. Perhaps, in time, the bonds of trust and respect could grow, and humanity could find its place among the stars not as guests, but as equals. As the twin moons of Virelia rose in the night sky, casting silver light across the crystalline towers, Adrian allowed himself a rare smile. The path ahead was uncertain, but it was also filled with possibility. He was a human, and humans were survivors. Humans were problem solvers, and as he drifted into sleep, he silently vowed to prove that humanity's spirit could shine even in the heart of the most alien world. The days on Virelia passed quickly, but each day brought new challenges for Adrian. He had grown accustomed to the alien city's strange beauty, the towering crystal spires, the softly glowing streets, and the quiet hum of energy flowing through the air. Yet, He never became entirely comfortable with the constant scrutiny of the Arithans. Their eyes followed him wherever he went, analyzing every movement and expression. Still, Adrian reminded himself that fear was useless. Understanding came through action and patience. Princess Lyra became his guide, not just to the city but to the culture itself. She was bold in ways that others were not. Where most Arithans approached him with caution or formality, she asked questions that cut straight to the heart of human nature. "Why do humans risk so much for curiosity?" she asked one afternoon, as they walked through a research garden filled with plants that glowed faintly in the sunlight. Adrian thought carefully before answering. "Because curiosity leads to understanding," he said. "Understanding makes us stronger. It teaches us how to survive, how to adapt, how to help others. Sometimes it is dangerous. Yes, but the reward is worth it." Lyra smiled, her eyes reflecting genuine admiration. "Your kind has courage in ways we have never fully understood. You act, even when the outcome is uncertain. That is unusual." It was true. Humans thrived on unpredictability, improvisation, and the ability to find solutions where none seemed possible. Adrian had already demonstrated these qualities with the energy chamber incident. But Lyra wanted to see more, to understand if this courage was innate or learned. Their walks became lessons in observation. Lyra would show Adrian the workings of Arithan technology, and he would respond with questions or suggestions that often left her startled. One day, they examined a water purification system used to sustain the city. A minor flaw in its design caused inefficiencies that the Arithans had long accepted as normal. Adrian identified the problem and offered a simple modification, using materials already available in the system. Within hours, the flow improved, and Lyra could see the astonishment on the technicians' faces as they realized a human had solved a problem they had considered unsolvable. Word of Adrian's ingenuity began to spread. Some Arithans whispered in quiet admiration, though others murmured doubts. He was human, unpredictable, emotional, and fragile. Could such a creature truly be trusted in a society that prized precision, logic, and control above all else? Lyra often overheard these doubts and felt frustration. She had seen what Adrian was capable of, and she believed humans had value beyond what many of her people were willing to acknowledge. She began advocating for him quietly, using her influence to allow him access to areas where humans would normally be forbidden. In doing so, she was taking a subtle risk, as her mother, the Queen, monitored every action within the palace. The growing tension within Arithan society was not limited to curiosity and doubt. Outside the palace, a faction of dissenting Arithans began to stir. They did not want humans to have any influence over their society and saw the Queen's willingness to observe the humans as a dangerous precedent. Rumors of rebellion and discontent spread through the lower districts, whispers that humans might bring chaos and disorder. One evening, as Adrian worked late in the Botanical Research Center, Lyra appeared at the doorway, her face marked with concern. "There is unrest," she said softly. "Some Arithans believe humans are a threat. They are speaking of rebellion. I fear it may come sooner than expected." Adrian nodded. "Then we must be prepared. Humans have survived in the harshest environments because we adapt quickly. If there is danger, we can respond, but we must act carefully." Together, they devised plans to monitor the unrest. Adrian suggested ways to gather information discreetly, using small drones and sensors adapted from human technology. Lyra approved, though she cautioned that the methods must be invisible to anyone who might be watching. Days later, Adrian and Lyra discovered the first signs of organized dissent. In a secluded section of the city, a group of dissidents was training, planning, and plotting. Their goal was not merely to remove humans but to challenge the Queen's authority altogether. It was a dangerous situation, but Adrian's human perspective allowed him to see an opportunity. Instead of confrontation, he suggested using strategy and intelligence to neutralize the threat. "We do not need violence," Adrian explained. "We need understanding, timing, and clever moves. If we can anticipate their actions, we can prevent disaster without bloodshed." Lyra watched him carefully. His calm confidence was contagious. She realized that humans did not always rely on brute strength. They relied on thought, improvisation, and courage, even in situations that seemed hopeless. They began to put their plan into action. Using their knowledge of the dissident group's routines, they created small diversions, intercepted communications, and guided city patrols to areas where minor disturbances could be contained. Each step was subtle, measured, and effective. The humans and loyal Erythans worked together seamlessly, a testament to the strength of collaboration between species. Throughout this, Adrian's interactions with Lyra deepened. They shared long discussions about philosophy, ethics, and the differences between humans and Erythans. Lyra learned that humans valued not only survival but empathy, creativity, and moral choice in ways that often conflicted with the Erythans' rigid logic. Adrian, in turn, marveled at Erythan intelligence, discipline, and their advanced understanding of the universe. He realized that the potential for partnership was extraordinary, if only fear and tradition could be overcome. One day, while observing a particularly complex energy conduit, Adrian noticed another subtle flaw. A minor imbalance in the system could cause widespread disruptions if not corrected. He acted immediately, using his knowledge of physics and engineering to stabilize the conduit. Lyra observed silently, her respect for him growing with every action he took. To the Erythans, he was human and fragile. But to Lyra, he was resourceful, brave, and dependable in a way that transcended species. News of Adrian's successes spread further, even reaching the ears of some senior advisors who had doubted him initially. A quiet shift began to occur. While not all Erythans were convinced, many began to recognize that humans could contribute in meaningful ways. Their skepticism remained, but it was tempered by admiration and curiosity. Despite these small victories, tensions still lingered. The dissident faction had not been fully neutralized, and the Queen remained cautious. She had watched Adrian's actions, but her instincts and centuries of experience made her wary. Could a human truly be trusted to influence her people? Could Princess Lyra's admiration cloud her judgment? These questions weighed heavily in the royal court. Adrian, however, remained undeterred. He focused on what he could control: his actions, his knowledge, and the trust he was building with Lyra. He knew that demonstrating humanity's potential required patience, intelligence, and courage, and he was prepared to show both. Late one night, as the twin moons of Virelia cast silver light across the palace gardens, Lyra and Adrian walked together. The soft glow illuminated their path, highlighting the delicate, alien flora around them. "You understand things differently," Lyra said quietly. "You see solutions where we see problems. You see opportunity where we see danger." Adrian smiled, brushing a stray hair from his forehead. "Humans survive because we adapt. We think differently. We make mistakes, but we learn from them. That is why we continue to grow." Lyra paused, studying him. "Your kind is remarkable. I have never met anyone like you. Perhaps one day the rest of my people will see it too." Adrian felt a quiet warmth. He had come to Virelia as a representative of humanity, but he had begun to understand that his mission was more than diplomacy. It was a chance to show that humans could thrive, not by overpowering, but by thinking, creating, and acting with courage and integrity. As they returned to the palace, Adrian felt a renewed sense of purpose. The challenges ahead were immense, but he knew he had allies, Lyra being the most important among them, and together, they would face the uncertainties, proving that humanity's spark could survive and even shine in the heart of an alien world. The following days would test their abilities, their intelligence, and their trust. Yet, Adrian remained confident. Humans were problem solvers, creators, and survivors. With careful action and courage, they could influence even the most rigid societies. And perhaps, through this bond, humanity would earn a place in the stars alongside the Erythans. As night fell over the crystalline city, Adrian looked up at the stars, feeling both small and infinite at the same time. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with risk and challenge. But one truth remained clear. Humans could rise to any occasion. They could adapt, survive, and triumph through courage and ingenuity. And Adrian, with Princess Lyra by his side, was ready to prove it. Tension filled the air over Verelia, like a storm waiting to break. The city that had seemed so calm and ordered now held a quiet unease. Rumors of rebellion had grown louder, whispers reaching the palace halls and stirring anxiety among the Erathans. The dissident faction, angry at the presence of humans and the influence of Princess Lyra, had begun mobilizing more openly. Adrian knew that the coming days would test everything he had learned about this alien world. He had adapted quickly, built trust, and shown that humans could offer solutions where the Erathans struggled. But now, the stakes were higher. Lives were at risk, the Queen's authority was challenged, and the fragile bond between humans and Erathans was threatened. Princess Lyra found Adrian early one morning as he examined the city's energy grid. Her expression was determined, yet her eyes held concern. "The rebellion is growing bolder," she said. "They have rallied more followers. If we do not act soon, they may strike directly at the Queen." Adrian nodded, examining the energy patterns with careful attention. "We must act strategically. A direct confrontation could cause unnecessary harm. But if we can anticipate their moves and prevent destruction, we can maintain peace and show that humans are capable allies." Lyra agreed, and together they began planning. Using their combined knowledge, her understanding of Erathan society and his experience in problem-solving, they developed a strategy to monitor the rebels' movements without revealing themselves. Small, discreet drones were deployed to gather information, and patrols were guided to positions where minor disturbances could be contained before they escalated. Every action was calculated, precise, and subtle. As the days passed, Adrian impressed Lyra once again. He noticed patterns that the Erathans had overlooked. He suggested minor modifications to security routines, rerouted energy flows to prevent sabotage, and found solutions to logistical challenges that could have left the city vulnerable. With every successful intervention, the rebels' plans faltered, and the city remained safe. But the Queen remained wary. She had observed Adrian's actions from afar, silently analyzing his every decision. He had demonstrated resourcefulness, courage, and ingenuity. Yet she struggled to reconcile his human nature with the discipline and predictability her society valued. Humans were emotional, fragile, and impulsive qualities she had long considered weaknesses. Adrian had shown, however, that these traits could also be strengths. The rebellion reached its peak during a ceremonial gathering in the royal plaza, where the Queen would address her people. The plaza, a wide expanse of crystal and light, was filled with citizens. Erathans moved with their usual grace, unaware that the dissident faction had chosen this moment to strike, hoping to challenge the Queen's authority in front of everyone. Adrian and Lyra watched from a secure vantage point. Lyra's hand rested lightly on his arm. "They will try something," she whispered. "Be ready." Adrian's eyes scanned the plaza. He had anticipated this move. "Stay calm," he replied. "Observe first, then act." The rebels moved swiftly, attempting to disrupt the ceremony. Their goal was not merely to challenge the Queen but to incite panic and disorder. However, Adrian's preparations paid off. Using subtle signals, he guided the city's patrols to intercept the faction without causing widespread fear. The rebels found themselves blocked at every turn, unable to reach their target. Despite the careful planning, chaos threatened to erupt. The Queen, sensing the disturbance, demanded an explanation. Her voice echoed through the plaza, sharp and commanding. "What is happening?" she demanded. Citizens froze, unsure of the source of the disruption. Adrian stepped forward, approaching the Queen's platform with measured confidence. The Erathans gasped. Humans were not permitted this level of proximity, especially during formal ceremonies. But he did not falter. He addressed the Queen with clarity and calm, explaining the situation and the measures he had taken to protect the citizens. His voice was steady, free of fear or hesitation. The Queen studied him closely, her piercing gaze searching for hidden motives. She asked pointed questions, testing his loyalty and understanding of Erethan customs. Adrian answered honestly, detailing his observations, strategies, and intentions. He spoke of the value of human ingenuity, courage, and adaptability, demonstrating through words and deeds why he could be trusted. Lyra watched silently, then stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. "He is my human companion," she declared, her voice clear and unwavering. The plaza fell silent, her words echoed through the space, bold and unexpected. The queen's eyes narrowed, her expression unreadable. Lyra continued, explaining Adrian's courage, intelligence, and the countless ways he had protected Erethans and their city. For a moment, it seemed as though the queen might respond with anger. But then she observed the citizens, the patrols, and the successful prevention of chaos. Adrian's actions spoke louder than words. The queen's face softened, ever so slightly, as she realized the truth. Humans, despite their differences, could be allies, not threats. The dissidents, seeing their plan fail, retreated. Their challenge had been thwarted without bloodshed, thanks to careful strategy and collaboration between human and Erethan minds. The plaza, once tense with fear, began to calm. Citizens whispered in surprise, some in admiration. Adrian had not only prevented disaster, but had proven that humans were capable of thinking, acting, and solving problems in ways Erethans themselves could not always achieve. Lyra turned to Adrian, her eyes shining with gratitude and pride. "You have shown them what I already knew," she said softly. "Humans are remarkable." Adrian smiled, though the weight of the situation remained heavy. "We have shown them something," he replied. "And it is only the beginning." The queen summoned Adrian and Lyra to her chambers later that evening. The room was grand, yet austere, filled with light that reflected off crystal walls. She studied Adrian with intensity, assessing his intentions and character. "You have acted decisively," she said, "yet I am cautious. Humans are unpredictable. How do I know you will not cause harm in the future?" Quote, Adrian met her gaze steadily. "Your Majesty, humans survive because we adapt. We think creatively, act courageously, and learn from mistakes. I cannot guarantee perfection, but I can promise loyalty, integrity, and the desire to protect life. I act with purpose, not recklessness." The queen considered his words. She had seen his actions, but centuries of caution made her slow to trust. Lyra, however, stood boldly beside Adrian, reinforcing his value. Her belief in him carried weight that could not be ignored. "You have shown that humans have qualities worth recognizing," the queen finally said. "Your actions have prevented disaster. Yet remember, trust must be earned continuously. Any misstep could undo what has been accomplished. Thank you for watching." Enter said, "Any misstep could undo what has been accomplished. Thank you for watching." "Thank you for watching." Adrian inclined his head respectfully. "I understand, Your Majesty. I will continue to act with integrity and care." Lyra smiled at him, relief evident in her expression. Together, they left the queen's chambers, knowing that the rebellion had been stopped. But awareness of future challenges lingered. The dissidents were not entirely gone. Their resentment remained. Yet a new respect for humanity had begun to take root, quietly spreading among those who had witnessed Adrian's courage and ingenuity. The following days were quieter, though vigilance remained. Adrian continued his work, assisting Erethans with projects that combined human creativity and alien precision. Lyra remained at his side, learning and growing alongside him. Their bond deepened, rooted in mutual respect, trust, and the shared understanding that humans and Erethans could accomplish great things together. Citizens began to notice the subtle changes. Some who had doubted humans now observed their usefulness and bravery. Conversations shifted from skepticism to curiosity, and small acts of cooperation between humans and Erethans became more common. Adrian's presence, once questioned, was slowly being accepted as a sign of possibility, not threat. At night, Adrian and Lyra would often walk among the glowing flora of the palace gardens. The city below was calm, yet alive with quiet energy. Lyra spoke softly about her hopes for the future, for a world where humans and Erathans could work together to explore the stars. Adrian listened, inspired by her vision, and shared his own dreams of discovery, understanding, and the potential of unity between species. "It is not easy," Lyra said one evening. "Many still resist change. They do not yet see what we see." Adrian smiled. "Change is never easy. But humanity thrives in uncertainty. We find solutions, adapt, and persevere. Together, we can show them that this partnership is possible." Lyra nodded, her gaze steady. "Then we will continue, no matter the challenges. Together." As the twin moons of Virelia rose, casting silver light across the crystalline towers, Adrian felt a quiet determination. Humans were survivors, creators, and problem solvers. He had faced scrutiny, doubt, and danger, yet he had prevailed through courage, ingenuity, and honesty. The bond he shared with Lyra was more than friendship. It was a bridge between worlds, a symbol of the potential for unity and mutual respect. And in the palace, among whispers of rebellion quelled and trust cautiously earned, one truth became clear. Humans had the ability to shine, even in the heart of the most alien and disciplined society. Adrian was living proof. And with Princess Lyra's support, he would continue to demonstrate that humanity's spark could illuminate the path forward for all of Virelia. The story of courage, ingenuity, and trust had only just begun, but already it had left its mark. The Queen had witnessed human potential, the citizens had seen it in action, and Lyra believed wholeheartedly. The next steps would bring new challenges, but Adrian was ready. Humans had always risen to meet challenges, and now, on Virelia, that truth would continue to prove itself. The city of Virelia had begun to settle into a new rhythm. The rebellion that had threatened the Queen's authority was no longer an immediate danger, but its memory lingered in the minds of the citizens. The dissident faction had been quelled, not through violence, but through careful planning, strategy, and collaboration, human and Erethan working together. Adrian Hale, the human xenobiologist, had become a symbol of hope, ingenuity, and courage. Though he remained humble and focused on the work ahead, Princess Lyra moved with quiet purpose beside him as they walked through the palace gardens. The air was filled with the soft glow of alien flora, their bioluminescence casting gentle light over the crystalline paths. Lyra's voice broke the silence. "The city is calmer, but there is still much to do. Many Erethans do not yet understand what humans can offer. You have proven yourself, Adrian, but the journey is not over." Adrian nodded. "I know. Change takes time. People are cautious, and rightly so. But every step we take shows them that humans are capable, trustworthy, and willing to work with them, not against them." Lyra smiled, admiration evident in her gaze. "I have no doubt. You have inspired me, and through that, perhaps we can inspire others as well." Their first task after the rebellion was to strengthen the city's defenses in ways that would ensure safety without intimidation. Adrian suggested improvements to the energy grid, better coordination between patrol units, and protocols for detecting and responding to future disturbances. Each suggestion blended human creativity with Erethan precision. Lyra oversaw the implementation, her support making the initiatives more acceptable to the citizens and advisors who had previously been skeptical. As the days passed, Adrian continued to demonstrate human adaptability in many ways. He solved logistical challenges in the city's water systems, improved medical protocols for both humans and Erethans, and helped optimize transportation systems that had been inefficient for decades. Each success, no matter how small, slowly shifted perceptions. The whispers of doubt about humans began to quiet, replaced by murmurs of admiration and curiosity. The queen, who had watched Adrian closely, summoned him to the palace. Her expression was measured, her eyes still sharp, yet there was a hint of recognition in her gaze. "You have acted wisely and with courage," she said. "You have proven that humans can contribute more than we expected. Your methods are different from ours, but they are effective." Adrian bowed respectfully. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I hope to continue serving in ways that benefit your people and foster cooperation between our species." The queen studied him silently, as if weighing the meaning behind his words. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Very well. You will remain under observation. But you are no longer a source of concern. You have earned the trust of some of my people. Earn the trust of the rest, and you will find greater acceptance." Adrian felt a quiet satisfaction. Trust was never given freely. It had to be earned through consistent action, courage, and integrity. He had taken the first steps, but he knew the work would continue. Lyra, standing beside him, gave a small, encouraging smile. "You have done more than survive here. You have begun to change minds." Their attention soon turned to long-term goals. Humans and Erithans had the potential to collaborate in ways neither species had fully imagined. Adrian proposed joint research programs, exploring the planet's unique flora and fauna, developing technologies that could improve life for both species, and preparing for further exploration of the stars. Lyra eagerly supported these ideas, recognizing that partnership could strengthen not only their society, but also the bond between humans and Erithans. One of their first projects involved the delicate ecosystems of Virelia's floating gardens. Humans had a different perspective on environmental balance, one that emphasized adaptability and observation, rather than rigid control. Adrian worked with Erithan scientists to develop techniques that improved plant health, reduced resource waste, and allowed more efficient energy distribution. Lyra observed closely, learning from Adrian's methods and seeing firsthand the value of human ingenuity. The citizens began to take notice. Humans were no longer seen as outsiders or potential threats. Instead, they became a symbol of problem-solving and creativity. Children watched Adrian with fascination, curious about the ways humans approached challenges. Scholars discussed his methods, some with initial skepticism, but many with growing appreciation. Even some of the Queen's advisors, who had doubted him at first, began to recognize the usefulness of human thinking. Amid these successes, Adrian and Lyra continued to grow closer. Their bond was founded on mutual respect, shared goals, and an understanding of the unique strengths of their respective species. They spent hours discussing philosophy, ethics, and the ways humans and Erithans could complement one another. Lyra admired Adrian's ability to remain calm under pressure, to think creatively, and to act with courage even when outcomes were uncertain. Adrian, in turn, admired Lyra's bravery, intelligence, and willingness to challenge her society's rigid traditions for the sake of what was right. One evening, as they observed the twin moons rise over the city, Lyra spoke of the future. "I want humans and Erithans to work together, not just here, but across the stars. There is so much we can learn from one another, and so much we can achieve." Adrian looked out over the city, the crystalline towers reflecting the moon's light. "Humans have always reached for the stars," he said. "We explore, we adapt, we learn. Together, we can achieve more than either of our species could alone." Lyra smiled, her eyes shining with determination. "Then we will continue, no matter the challenges, together." The Queen, observing these developments, slowly began to understand the potential of human collaboration. She saw that Adrian's actions had prevented disaster, improved the city's systems, and inspired the citizens. She recognized that humans were not just different, they were valuable. And through Princess Lyra, she began to see that partnerships with humans could strengthen her reign, her people, and the planet itself. In time, the Queen publicly acknowledged Adrian's contributions during a ceremonial gathering. Citizens and scholars alike witnessed her words. Humans had demonstrated courage, intelligence, and creativity, and they deserved recognition and respect. The announcement was met with applause, not just for Adrian, but for the promise of a new era of cooperation between species. Adrian stood beside Lyra, humbled but proud. He had come to Virelia as a visitor, uncertain of what awaited him. Now, he had become a symbol of human potential, showing that courage, ingenuity, and integrity could overcome fear and prejudice. The story of human and Erethan collaboration continued to grow. Joint research teams explored new technologies, developed sustainable systems, and studied the stars. The lessons learned during the rebellion became guiding principles: observation, preparation, courage, and the willingness to think differently could prevent disasters and create opportunities. Citizens began to see humans as partners and allies. Their perception shifted from fear and skepticism to curiosity, respect, and admiration. Children asked questions about human ingenuity, adults studied their methods, and even skeptics slowly began to appreciate the value of human problem-solving. Adrian's presence had changed Virelia. He had shown that humanity's strengths, adaptability, creativity, courage, and perseverance were powerful forces even in a world governed by logic and tradition. He had earned trust, not through words alone, but through action, demonstrating that humans could make a positive difference in any society. Lyra and Adrian continued to work together, exploring new ways for humans and Erethans to collaborate. Their bond symbolized the potential for unity across species. The rebellion had been a test, one that proved humans could rise to the occasion, not through force, but through intelligence, courage, and careful action. As they walked through the city one evening, the lights of Virelia sparkling below, Lyra turned to Adrian. "We have faced danger, solved problems, and earned trust. But this is only the beginning. There is still so much to learn and achieve." Adrian nodded, his eyes reflecting determination and hope. "Then we will continue, step by step, together. Humans adapt. We persevere. And with your guidance, Princess, we can build something greater than either of our species could alone." The twin moons rose high in the sky, casting their silver light across the crystalline towers, illuminating a city transformed. Humans had arrived as visitors, but through courage, ingenuity, and collaboration, they had become an integral part of Virelia. Adrian's journey was far from over, but he had proven a timeless truth. Humanity's spark could shine anywhere, even in the heart of the most alien and disciplined world. And in the quiet moments, as Lyra and Adrian stood together under the glowing moons, the future felt limitless. Together, humans and Erethans would explore new worlds, learn from one another, and build a society that celebrated creativity, courage, and the enduring power of trust. The bond between the two species was no longer just a possibility, it was a promise of hope, discovery, and shared triumphs to come. Virelia had survived a test of its own rigidity and fear. Humanity had arrived not as conquerors, but as companions, problem-solvers, and allies. And through their actions, the story of human courage and ingenuity, the essence of HFY, would be remembered, not just on Virelia, but across the stars they were yet to explore. The city slept under the twin moons, but the future was awake. And humanity's light, steady, brilliant, and enduring, shone brighter than ever.